Hey everyone, today on Belly Strong we'll be talking about pelvic organ prolapse. Now this is incredibly common in women. The research shows that up to 50% of women will have prolapse upon internal examination, but a lot of them won't even know that they have it. When it comes to prolapse, it's only an issue if it causes symptoms. These symptoms usually include a bulge or a feeling of heaviness in the vagina and sometimes pain. It's common for the prolapse or the size of the bulge to fluctuate and change on a day-to-day basis depending on what you're doing. It's something that can happen during pregnancy because of all of the stretching of the muscles and the connective tissue around the pelvis. There's less connective tissue support to hold those pelvic organs up, and so we get some of those organs pushing or pressing down and forming a prolapse. There are three most common types of prolapse. The first and the most common is an anterior prolapse or a bladder prolapse. So if we think about the vagina sitting here as a tube, and this is the front of the body and this is the back, the bladder sits in front of the vagina and uterus like this. If that falls downwards, it can push into the front wall of the vagina, which can then fall downwards and cause an anterior prolapse. We then have a posterior wall prolapse or a bowel prolapse. So at the back behind the vagina, we have the rectum or the bowel coming down. If that rectum falls downwards, it can push into the back wall of the vagina and cause that wall to kind of push downwards, and we get a prolapse from the back. The other type of prolapse we can get is a uterine prolapse. The uterus is up here, and if the uterus falls downwards into that vaginal canal, we can then get a uterine prolapse pushing down. There are some variations in prolapse and other types, but those are the three main ones. Prolapse is incredibly common after vaginal delivery. It's one of the key risk factors in causing prolapse, especially if you've had the assistance of any instruments like forceps or ventouse delivery. During delivery, the pelvic floor will stretch up to 3 times its length. That's stretching to the muscles and all of the connective tissue around that pelvis. Connective tissue is what holds all of the pelvic organs in place. So when this is stretched and lax with that increased flexibility or looseness, we get less support for all of the pelvic organs, and we can start to get things sagging downwards. A lot of women will notice a mild prolapse immediately after delivery and in the following weeks or months. A lot of the time, this will resolve, but connective tissue healing can take ages, and I'm talking about years. So when it comes to prolapse, we usually need to give it a very long time for that connective tissue to heal to see a larger change. Prolapse is not a quick fix. I really wish it were, but there are some key things that we can do to help with that healing over time. One of the most important things for prolapse is pressure management. So if you think about the torso and this core, we have the pelvic floor, the diaphragm, the abs that wrap around, that form this canister in the middle of our body. If we are unable to control pressure well in this canister, if we have too much pressure down, poor pressure management, we can put more pressure down on a prolapse, which can cause it to bulge out further. I do have a video that talks a bit more about this and how to tell if you're putting too much pressure down on that pelvic floor. For a quick review, the lower abs are incredibly important for helping with support of the pelvic organs and managing pressure. A simple way to test whether you're using your lower abs effectively is to blow up a balloon. If you blow up the balloon and you feel or see your lower belly pooch out, that means we're putting too much pressure downwards. We're not able to contain that pressure, and so it's now popping out and downwards, which can be harmful for prolapse. If you blow up a balloon and you can maintain a flattening and gathering of the lower belly, we know, at least for that movement, that those lower abs are doing what they should be. Something else that can impact pressure on that core is what's happening up here, looking at rib cage width. So if we think about a narrow rib cage, imagine the ribs are coming down and in. That's going to cause a squeezing from the top down, and that pressure has to go somewhere. So most often out on the pelvic floor. We often get narrow rib cage or narrow rib cage width with overactive upper abs. If you're an upper ab gripper, that can put too much pressure down on the pelvic floor. Upper ab grippers will usually have this type of posture. We'll see this come down and in, and we can often feel or see that tightness in the upper abs. With prolapse, the pelvic floor muscles are not always necessarily weak. Pelvic floor tension or muscles that are too tight can make prolapse worse. So imagine if within your pelvic cavity, we've got a lot of tension in all of those muscles. That tension can almost push a prolapse out. And by releasing that tension, sometimes, if that's the cause, we can get that prolapse to lift back up. Signs that you may have too much tension in your pelvic floor may include pain, difficulty starting a urine stream, or your urine comes out in little spurts rather than one long continuous flow. You may suffer from constipation, pain during sex, a feeling of chronic UTIs or irritation around the vagina. You may feel like you just can't get your breath moving down into that pelvis on a deep breath. All of those things could indicate some level of pelvic floor tension. As you can see, there are a few things that can contribute to prolapse, and this is just a small list. There is no magic fix for prolapse. Everyone will be different and will require slightly different things in order to help heal over time. Because everyone is different, there is no list of exercises that will make prolapse worse. For one woman, running might make the symptoms of prolapse worse. For another, she might feel better after going for a run. In these cases, it's more about how you're doing it. Are you running in a way that's pushing or putting more pressure down on the pelvic floor? Or are you running in a way that's getting the thoracic spine rotating and creating a lift? In the first case, that is going to make prolapse worse. In the second case, it's going to make it feel better. So many women are fearful of doing anything that will make their prolapse worse, and so they stop everything. But that can have more of a negative effect over time because things just continue to get weaker and weaker, and we have less support for that prolapse, which is really what it needs to heal over time. It took pushing a baby out of a hole that's probably that big to cause prolapse. And daily activities, especially if you're conscious of how you do them, are very unlikely to put that amount of pressure or strain on the pelvic floor. The bulge or symptoms may feel worse after certain triggers or activities, but remember, it's common for that bulge or symptoms to fluctuate depending on what you do, and you're very unlikely to make the grade of prolapse significantly worse with daily activities. i.e., it's not going to pop all the way out from lifting your little one into the car. It may feel worse after that activity, especially if we don't have the strength, but you're not going to make the grade or the physical bulge worse. I've mentioned some common contributing factors today, and we also have a generic prolapse workout on the Belly Strong YouTube channel. Check that out if you haven't already. But as I mentioned before, everyone is different. So if you can, I really recommend seeking out a pelvic physiotherapist and having a consultation to determine what factors may be contributing to your symptoms. It's easy to book an appointment, either virtual or face-to-face, on the Belly Strong website, and we also have further resources available on this channel. I would really appreciate you subscribing. It helps me out with the whole algorithm thing. Hit that notification bell. Leave a comment down below if this has been helpful. I'll have more for you soon.